Okay, go ahead and put it down.
All right. Okay, hanging out with Bryan Risner. All right, Bryan.
Well, you know, it's not always the easiest thing in the world to have to go to school when Dad's at school. Dad's actively involved in school. It's not like he's a teacher in some part of the building where he's not, you know, he can hide back there, but he's an active guy involved in athletic administration. So, was that an intimidating thing for you, or how was that?
You know, it wasn't too bad. Actually, I had it from both ends because he was the principal of Mishawaka until my senior year, and then he came over to Penn for my senior year. So I had the target on my back while he was at Mishawaka, and then he came over and I had the target on my back at Penn. But no, it worked out great. It was nice to have him around, and yeah, he could pop into the practice and certainly make all the games. So that made it a lot better for that last year.
Give us an idea on that change from A to B. Was that difficult? Was that seamless?
I would say it was seamless. Yeah, I think he didn't have to hide in the press box anymore during games.
How about for you though?
You know, I had a great relationship, I think, with the coaching staff. So I felt it was home, regardless of whether my dad was around or not. So it was, I think, pretty seamless. I may have had to bust a little bit harder at practice every now and then when he showed up, but that wasn't all that often.
What do you? We've talked about this with a lot of our coaches and athletes about the Penn Way. How would you define what the Penn Way is?
You know, I think it was whether it was, I think I may have heard someone else say respect or honor. I think those are two great terms for it. You know, while it was just high school football, at that time it certainly meant a lot to everybody in their life. It meant a lot to make sure that you held up that code for all the guys that were on your team, the coaches that were relying on you, and all those that went before you as well.
As you look at the Penn coaching staff, as well as your position coach, and you look back on the opportunities to play for them, what is fond in the memory department for you?
You know, there were a lot of great memories from being a young camper and getting to meet all the older players that you got to see on Friday nights to being a young scout team player and having your tail kicked every day, to then finally getting the opportunity. But I think the Thursday nights were special to us, where the coaches went around and would share with us what this week meant to them. So that kind of brought everything into focus for you, and then of course after that we typically got together as a team and watched film of the opponent and had some good some good fellowship time, and really helped dial it all in. So I would think those were probably the best memories of just how we worked as a team and focused all of our efforts for that one common goal on Friday nights.
It does not appear to me that the coaches were not approachable, and the coaches were not, I don't know what the term I want to use here, they just seemed like they were always there. They were an extension of the family, their own personal family. How would you describe that?
Well, I would say so. Now, I may have a slightly different relationship with some of them because my dad was a coach years ago at Mishawaka Marion with Coach Monhoot, and then known a number of the coaches for many years. So I always felt like I had a little bit of a family, regardless of my relationship as a football player. But I think the approachability is a lot like, I was fortunate enough to play college football. It's a lot like playing college football, where the head coach may not have been the one you were as close to as maybe your position coach or maybe your D coordinator or whatever it was. And I think the same was at at Penn, you always had someone that you could go to, and they put their arm around you and make sure that you're in the right place.
Did you ever feel that any of the coaches here were larger than life?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah, absolutely. When they get up on the stage on Thursday night, and not really a stage, but when they would stand up and talk to you, you know, yeah, they were all larger than life. They all had something to share that I think in some way spoke to everybody on the team. So yeah.
All right, now let's go back and from a year by year. All right, so let's start with your senior year and work backwards. What is the significant moment for you, your senior year, whether it be playing, it could be a Thursday night talking, it could be doing something out with your buddies. What was the senior year for you? Your special moment?
Yeah, I would say I hope that everybody has a similar response. I think there were a lot of special things in their senior year. You know, that's what it was. You build up to that special year. We had some great games. We had, you know, I don't think they're probably allowed to do it anymore, but we camped out on the football field during the summer. We got together and went on many vacations together. So I think there were a lot of special times. But there were some games, and I'm sure you've probably heard, but Coach Giesman made it out as though every team was loaded with All-Americans that could bench press 500 pounds, and they all ran 440s, you know, 4.40s, and I think that, you know, we approached every game as though that were the case, and there were a few games that, you know, looking back at it, should have been very easy games on paper, and they turned out to be, but we walked into that game thinking that we were in for a dogfight. So that was probably one of the more special parts, was just looking back at the frame of mind that you had, the approach that you had before every game.
11th grade. What do you recall about 11th grade?
Pretty unique, for me anyway. My dad was a principal at Mishawaka. I was that guy that they didn't know what to do with, position-wise. So from a personal perspective, I was a 6'4", 210-pound corner, not quarterback, corner, and I wasn't that fast. So I wasn't a starter. And we went into the game, and we had an unbelievable linebacker named Steve Carter that broke his leg. I think it was the third game of the season against Riley, and ironically, he broke his leg over another guy's leg, and it hurt the other guy so bad that he couldn't play the rest of the game. So I went in and I played as a corner the rest of the game. And the next day they moved me to outside linebacker in the JV game. They taught me literally in about an hour's time, taught me how to play outside linebacker, and I played there the rest of the year and had a good year. You know, it was all conference and all area, and so that was a very unique scenario. We had a number of injuries to key players that probably limited where we ended up. You know, Jeremy Lowry was a phenomenal running back, one of the best I've seen. Tore his knee in our playoff game. You know, Steve Carter, like I already mentioned. So that was unfortunate, but you know, that's how it goes.
Is there a humorous Penn moment for you that you just, every time I think about it, you just laugh, and you can, or was it just there maybe wasn't one, or were you Mr. Intensity?
No, I wasn't Mr. I would say about that. So defense and offense are very different in terms of their approach to the game, both in practice and in game. So I played on defense primarily in high school, and during our playoff run, my senior year, we were playing at Fort Wayne Snyder, and our tight end, all-conference tight end, Jason Ryle, had broken part of his hand. I think it was his finger, and pins and everything, and for that one game anyway, he couldn't play. So they needed me to play tight end. So again, kind of like my junior year, they taught me a position in a matter of a couple of days, and So I played in the first series. I came out. Defensive players are typically a little more intense, and it's they call them the wild bunch. It's a bunch of guys flying around, knocking each other around, and I got into the huddle, and we ran the first play, and it was fun because I got to line up next to Adam Kane, and no one wanted to line up over him, so they would line up over me. And they just kept running the same play over and over and over. We did, and we just drove it right down the field and knocked him off the ball. And I came back to the huddle, and I'm knocking people in the head and hitting everybody. And I think it was Donnie Beck and Adam Kane both grabbed me by the face mask. Said, "We don't do that here." So anyway, it was I mean, we all laugh at it years later, but it was one of those moments that you realize, okay, there's a definite difference between offense and defense here. But no, that was a pretty interesting time, because they still laugh at it that I almost screwed up the whole drive because I was acting like an idiot in the huddle, and everybody was supposed to be quiet and
subdued.
Yeah.
All right, final thing. What's your favorite Penn moment? Maybe a little bit more on the serious note. I don't know, was it senior night? Maybe it was just a combination. Was there a play, or was it just just taking that helmet off for the last time? Maybe, I know a lot of times those Penn players, they'd water down the field and they would slide. They would do the slip slide thing. That was back when it was grass, but do you have a serious moment?
Well, you have to remember, my dad was the AD, so he'd never let me do that because he was
Right.
ultimately responsible for the field. So, I don't. Again, like we mentioned earlier, I don't think there's a singular Penn moment that was my favorite. I think it was a combination of just the totality of the experience. The knowing that. Like I said, and I know that you're interviewing a lot of people that were a lot more successful than I was, but I was fortunate enough to play college ball on a full scholarship and Division I, and I never felt that I had a coaching staff, and I also worked in college athletics for about 13 years. Never felt that I had a coaching staff that was any more prepared, any more creative, any more football savvy. They were all great teachers. They were all great people. And I've worked with Steve Spurrier and Bobby Petrino, and Sean Payton was a quarterback coach at Miami when I played there. And Terry Hepner was our defensive coordinator, and Randy Walker was our head coach. And we had some unbelievable coaches that I've had the fortunate experience to be around. I don't think anywhere better. So that's made it a pretty interesting time, to go through the old scouting reports. I remember I'd come home from college and I'd have all my scouting reports there, and friends of mine would look at them and go like, "Are you kidding me?" That's just how prepared they were, and that's why they win with. Well, they used to. I'm sure they're a lot bigger now, but that's why we were able to win with 180-pound center in big-time high school football. They weren't all Adam Kanes and big tall guys, and we won with a lot of guys that just had a tremendous amount of heart and great coaching.
Outstanding.